Chapter 1: The Invisible Money Ceiling Above Your Head. You work hard. You make decent money. You're responsible with bills. Yet somehow you're still broke. Not homeless broke, but perpetually behind broke. One emergency away from disaster broke. Working until 70 broke. The kind of broke that doesn't look like poverty but feels like a cage. You see others with less talent making more money. You wonder what you're missing. Here's the truth. There's an invisible ceiling above your head, and you've been bumping against it your entire life without realizing it exists. This ceiling isn't made of circumstances. It's made of beliefs, behaviors, and blind spots so deeply embedded you mistake them for reality. They're programming installed before you could think critically. Messages from parents who meant well but were broke themselves. Cultural narratives about money being evil or scarce. Educational systems that taught obedience, not wealth creation. Media glorifying consumption while demonizing accumulation. By age 7, your money ceiling was already being constructed. By 25, it was solid concrete above you. The cruel part? This ceiling is completely invisible to you. Fish don't know they're in water. You don't know you're in limiting beliefs. You think your financial situation is caused by external factors. Not enough income. Too many expenses. Bad luck. The economy. Your degree. Your industry. These feel like real constraints. But they're symptoms, not causes. The actual cause is the programming running in your subconscious mind, making certain financial outcomes literally impossible for you to achieve regardless of effort. Here's how this plays out practically. Someone with a $30,000 money ceiling can hustle and grind and eventually hit $30,000 in income. But they can't sustain more. When they earn $35,000, something happens. They get sick and miss work. Their car breaks down. They make impulsive purchases. They sabotage the job that paid more. Somehow they return to $30,000. It's not coincidence. It's their unconscious mind enforcing the ceiling, protecting them from the discomfort of exceeding their identity. Because that's what the ceiling really is, your financial identity. The amount of money you unconsciously believe you're worth, you deserve, or that's normal for someone like you. This identity was formed through thousands of micro-messages. What your parents said about rich people. Whether money caused stress or ease in your home. Whether you were told you were smart or destined to struggle. Whether abundance or scarcity defined your childhood. These experiences wired neural pathways that now govern your financial outcomes more than your resume ever will. Neuroscience confirms this. Your reticular activating system filters reality to match your beliefs. If you believe you're destined to struggle, you'll literally see opportunities as threats and miss possibilities right in front of you. Your beliefs create selective attention. Your attention creates actions. Your actions create results. Your results reinforce beliefs. This is the loop keeping you broke. Not external circumstances. Internal programming creating external outcomes that validate the programming. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. But your mind can't prepare for what it doesn't believe possible. If wealth feels foreign, uncomfortable, or scary, your mind will sabotage any approach toward it. This explains why lottery winners go broke. Why inherited money disappears. Why people making $200,000 still live paycheck to paycheck. The external numbers changed. The internal ceiling didn't. So the mind creates circumstances that restore familiar financial discomfort. Consider James. He grew up in a family where money was constantly tight. His parents fought about finances weekly. He absorbed the message that money causes problems and stress. As an adult, James worked hard and earned well. But he unconsciously avoided raises, turned down promotions requiring more responsibility, and made impulsive purchases that kept him broke. Consciously, he wanted wealth. Unconsciously, he equated wealth with the stress and conflict he witnessed as a child. His mind protected him from wealth to protect him from pain. His ceiling was installed at age 6 and remained unquestioned for 40 years. The first step to breaking your ceiling is recognizing it exists. This requires honest self-examination. What did your parents believe about money? What did they say about wealthy people? Was money discussed openly or secretly? Did financial conversations involve stress or ease? Was wealth portrayed as attainable or only for others? These questions reveal your installed programming. Most people never ask them. They operate on autopilot, wondering why outcomes never change despite different strategies. Next, examine your current behaviors for ceiling evidence. Do you self-sabotage when things go well financially? Do you feel guilty or anxious when you have money? Do you immediately spend any surplus? Do you avoid learning about investing or wealth building? Do you tell yourself stories about why wealth isn't possible for you? Do you resent wealthy people? These behaviors aren't character flaws. They're ceiling enforcement mechanisms. Your unconscious mind keeping you safely within your programmed limits. The psychological term for this is homeostasis. Your nervous system seeks equilibrium. When you exceed your financial set point, discomfort signals trigger to restore the familiar level. This feels like anxiety, guilt, or fear. So you unconsciously create situations that bring you back down. You don't need external enemies keeping you broke. You have an internal enforcer doing it automatically. Until you recognize this dynamic, you'll keep blaming circumstances while your mind quietly recreates the same outcomes. Breaking the ceiling requires more than positive thinking or vision boards. It requires identifying specific limiting beliefs, questioning their validity, and installing new beliefs through repetitive evidence. If you believe wealthy people are greedy, you'll unconsciously avoid wealth to avoid being greedy. You must examine whether that belief is actually true, recognize its origin, and replace it with a more empowering belief supported by counterexamples. This is psychological work, not just financial education. Here's what nobody tells you. You can't out-earn your money ceiling. You can temporarily exceed it through extraordinary effort. But without addressing the underlying beliefs, you'll contract back to your set point. This is why people get raises and somehow end up no better off. Why windfalls disappear. Why debt gets paid off then reaccumulates. The external money changed. The internal ceiling stayed fixed. Until you raise your internal ceiling, external efforts produce temporary results at best. Your money ceiling determines not just how much you earn but how much you keep, how you invest, what opportunities you see, and what risks you're willing to take. It affects everything financial in your life. It's the most important factor in your wealth journey, yet nobody teaches you it exists. Schools don't mention it. Books rarely address it. So you spend decades pushing against an invisible barrier, exhausted and confused about why effort doesn't produce expected results. Starting today, your mission is ceiling awareness. Notice when you're uncomfortable with financial success. Notice when you sabotage progress. Notice the stories you tell about money. Notice what you learned from your family. Write these observations down. Examine them with curiosity, not judgment. You didn't install this ceiling consciously. You don't need shame. You need awareness. Because awareness is the first crack in the ceiling. Once you see it, you can dismantle it. Once you dismantle it, you can build something entirely different. Something that doesn't keep you broke. Something that allows wealth to flow naturally because it's aligned with your identity, not contradicting it. This is where your financial transformation begins. Not with tactics. With recognizing the invisible force that's been controlling your outcomes all along. See the ceiling. Then we'll shatter it together. Chapter 2. Your brain on broke mode and how to rewire it. Your brain in broke mode operates fundamentally differently than your brain in wealth mode. This isn't metaphor. It's measurable neuroscience. When you're in financial stress, your prefrontal cortex, the part handling complex thinking and long-term planning, literally shuts down. Your amygdala activates, flooding your system with cortisol and adrenaline. You enter survival mode. And in survival mode, you cannot think strategically about wealth. You can only react to immediate threats. This is your brain on broke. And it's keeping you broke. Broke mode isn't about how much money you have. It's about how your brain processes financial reality. You can make 6 figures and operate in broke mode. You can have 10,000 in the bank and operate in broke mode. Broke mode is constant financial anxiety regardless of actual circumstances. It's checking your bank balance with dread. It's making decisions from scarcity rather than strategy. It's inability to think beyond this month. It's treating money as something to survive, not something to leverage. Most people live their entire lives in broke mode. This guarantees they stay broke regardless of income. The psychology of broke mode creates a vicious cycle. Financial stress reduces cognitive capacity. Studies show financial anxiety reduces IQ by 13 points. 13 points. That's the difference between average intelligence and intellectual disability. When you're stressed about money, you're literally dumber. You make poor decisions. These poor decisions create worse outcomes. Worse outcomes increase stress. The cycle intensifies. You're not making bad choices because you're stupid. You're making bad choices because stress is making you temporarily stupid. This explains patterns that seem crazy from the outside. Why do broke people buy lottery tickets? Because their stressed brains can't calculate probability. They're grasping at hope. Why do people with debt buy new cars? Because the immediate dopamine hit from the purchase temporarily relieves the chronic stress of being broke. Why do people avoid checking bank balances? Because the stress of knowing feels worse than the uncertainty. These aren't moral failures. These are brains in broke mode doing what stressed brains do, seeking immediate relief from discomfort regardless of long-term consequences. Neuroscience reveals that chronic financial stress rewires your brain physically. Your hippocampus, crucial for learning and memory, actually shrinks. Your amygdala, processing fear and threats, enlarges. Your neural pathways strengthen connections associated with scarcity and weaken connections associated with opportunity. You're literally becoming neurologically adapted to being broke. Your brain is optimizing for a reality you desperately want to escape. This is why people who grow up poor struggle even after external circumstances improve. The brain wiring remains poor. But here's the critical insight that changes everything: neuroplasticity. Your brain can rewire itself. The changes caused by broke mode aren't permanent. New experiences create new neural pathways. Repetitive positive experiences strengthen those pathways. Eventually, new pathways become dominant, and old broke mode pathways atrophy. You can physically change your brain from broke mode to wealth mode. This requires understanding how and committing to the process. Most people never do this because they don't know it's possible. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And preparing your mind means deliberately rewiring it away from scarcity patterns toward abundance patterns. This isn't positive thinking. It's neural reconditioning through strategic practices that change brain structure over time. Let me break down the specific rewiring process. First, you must calm your threat response. Your amygdala interprets financial uncertainty as mortal danger. This triggers fight or flight. You can't think strategically while your nervous system believes you're being chased by a tiger. Calming techniques aren't luxuries. They're necessities for financial success. Daily meditation, breathwork, or progressive relaxation actively shrink your amygdala and strengthen your prefrontal cortex. 15 minutes daily of deliberate nervous system regulation literally changes your brain structure in ways that enable better financial decision-making. This is the foundation. Without nervous system regulation, everything else fails. Second, you need evidence gathering to challenge scarcity beliefs. Your brain operates on pattern recognition. It believes what it repeatedly experiences. If you've repeatedly experienced scarcity, your brain assumes scarcity is reality. To rewire this, you must actively notice abundance evidence. Not fake gratitude. Real evidence. Every time someone pays you, notice it. Every time you have enough food, acknowledge it. Every time an expense is covered, recognize it. This sounds trivial, but you're training your reticular activating system to filter for abundance instead of threat. Over weeks, this creates new neural pathways that perceive opportunities instead of only dangers. Third, visualization practices strengthen wealth mode pathways. Your brain doesn't distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real experiences. Neuroscientists have proven that mental practice creates the same neural pathways as physical practice. Athletes use this. Musicians use this. You should use it for financial rewiring. Spend 10 minutes daily vividly imagining yourself making wealthy decisions, seeing opportunities, investing confidently, reviewing account balances without anxiety, paying for things without checking prices. Your brain experiences these visualizations as real events. Each visualization strengthens wealth mode neural pathways. Fourth, behavioral experiments override old programming. Your broke mode brain believes certain financial actions are dangerous. Testing these beliefs through small experiments provides contradictory evidence that creates cognitive dissonance. Your brain must reconcile the belief with the evidence. Over time, evidence wins. For example, if you believe investing is only for rich people, invest $10. You'll learn it's accessible. That small action contradicts a limiting belief. Your brain adjusts. Do one small financial behavior weekly that your broke mode brain says is impossible or dangerous. Each success weakens old pathways and strengthens new ones. Fifth, environmental design supports new patterns. Your environment shapes your brain automatically. Broke environments promote broke thinking. If everyone around you complains about money, your brain accepts scarcity as normal. If you consume media celebrating consumption, your brain normalizes spending. Deliberately curate your environment. Follow people discussing wealth building. Read books about financial success. Join communities focused on prosperity. Your brain absorbs environmental messages constantly. Make those messages support wealth mode, not broke mode. Marcus lived in broke mode for 38 years despite decent income. Constant anxiety about money. Checking his balance obsessively. Making impulsive purchases for emotional relief. He'd try budgets and fail. He'd save then drain the account. He thought he lacked discipline. Actually, his brain was stuck in broke mode. Then Marcus learned about neural rewiring. He started with 5-minute daily meditations to calm his nervous system. He kept a daily abundance journal noting 3 financial positives, training his pattern recognition toward opportunity. He visualized reviewing bank statements with calm curiosity instead of dread. He automated savings so his conscious brain couldn't override the action. Within 6 months, his relationship with money transformed. Not because his income changed, because his brain changed. He rewired from broke mode to wealth mode. His financial outcomes followed his neurology. This is the path for everyone stuck in broke mode. You're not broken. You're not stupid. You're not destined for struggle. Your brain is simply wired for a reality you no longer want. That wiring can change. But it requires deliberate practice, not just wanting it to change. You must systematically calm your nervous system. Train your attention toward abundance evidence. Visualize wealth mode behaviors. Test limiting beliefs through action. Curate environments supporting new patterns. These practices, done consistently for months, physically change your brain structure. The timeline matters. Neuroplasticity works, but it isn't instant. You need roughly 90 days of consistent practice to create noticeable pathway changes. 6 months to make new patterns feel natural. A year to fully rewire from broke mode to wealth mode. Most people quit after 2 weeks because they don't see dramatic changes. They're expecting magic. Real change is biology. Biological change takes time. But time passes whether you're rewiring or not. The question is whether you arrive at next year with the same broke mode brain or a transformed wealth mode brain. Here's the critical distinction. Trying harder with a broke mode brain doesn't work. You need a wealth mode brain first, then effort produces results. It's like trying to run a marathon with broken legs. More effort just causes more pain. Heal the legs first. Then running works. Your broke mode brain is injured by years of financial stress. Heal it first through deliberate rewiring. Then financial strategies actually produce results. Most people skip the healing and wonder why every strategy fails. The strategy isn't the problem. The brain running the strategy is the problem. Starting today, commit to the 90-day rewiring protocol. Daily nervous system regulation. Daily abundance evidence journaling. Daily wealth mode visualization. Weekly behavioral experiments. Environmental curation. Mark 90 days on your calendar. Commit to the process without judging results. You're changing neurology, not just trying new tactics. At day 90, assess. Notice how you think about money differently. Notice reduced anxiety. Notice improved decision-making. Notice opportunities you previously missed. These changes are evidence of successful rewiring. Then continue the practices until wealth mode becomes automatic. This is how you permanently escape broke mode. Not through making more money. Through making a brain that naturally creates and sustains wealth. Fix the brain. The money follows. Chapter 3. The hidden costs of staying comfortable. Comfort is expensive. Not obviously expensive like luxury purchases. Insidiously expensive. The kind of expensive that compounds quietly over decades, ultimately costing you millions without you noticing. Staying comfortable means avoiding difficult conversations, uncertain ventures, and temporary discomfort. It means choosing familiar over optimal, easy over effective, safe over strategic. This feels responsible. But it's the most financially destructive pattern most people never recognize. Your comfort zone isn't protecting you. It's bankrupting you in slow motion. Think about the job you stay in because it's familiar. You know the people. You know the routine. You know your exact paycheck. It's comfortable. But you also know you're underpaid by $15,000 annually compared to market value. Your comfort zone is costing you $15,000 per year. Over a 30-year career, that's $450,000 in lost wages. That doesn't even account for the compound investment returns on that money. The actual cost of staying comfortable in that job approaches $1 million. $1 million for the feeling of familiarity. Is comfort worth that price? The psychology of comfort reveals why humans choose it despite mathematical stupidity. Our brains evolved to conserve energy and avoid risk. Thousands of years ago, this kept us alive. Known was safe. Unknown might contain predators. Those who explored unnecessarily often died. We're descendants of the cautious. Our brains still operate on ancestral programming designed for a world that no longer exists. What kept cavemen alive keeps modern humans broke. Because in today's world, calculated risk is required for wealth. Safety equals slow financial death. Neuroscience shows that your brain processes financial risk in the same regions as physical threat. Potentially losing money activates the same neural pathways as potentially getting eaten by a lion. Your amygdala can't distinguish between financial risk and mortal danger. So every potentially wealth-building action, starting a business, negotiating salary, investing, switching careers, feels terrifying at a primal level. Your nervous system screams for you to stay safe, to stay comfortable, to avoid the threat. This automatic response has protected billions of humans from wealth. Consider the hidden costs of comfort systematically. Staying in an underpaying job, lost wages compound over decades into 7 figures. Avoiding negotiation because it's uncomfortable, missing 2 raises of $4,000 each over a career costs over $300,000 with compound interest. Not investing because markets feel scary. Inflation erodes purchasing power by 3 to 4% annually, meaning your safely saved money loses half its value every 20 years. Avoiding career pivots into higher-paying fields. Opportunity cost potentially reaches millions over a working lifetime. Not starting that business idea because failure feels scary. Entrepreneurs with failed businesses still out-earn lifelong employees on average. Every choice for comfort is simultaneously a choice against wealth. This doesn't mean choosing discomfort randomly. It means recognizing that temporary, strategic discomfort leads to permanent elevation, while permanent, unexamined comfort leads to permanent mediocrity. You get to choose, but you don't get to avoid choosing. Not deciding is still a decision. Defaulting to comfort because it's the path of least resistance is still choosing comfort over wealth. And that choice has a price tag most people never calculate. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And the prepared mind understands that discomfort is the price of admission to wealth. Not suffering. Suffering is pointless. Strategic discomfort. The discomfort of difficult conversations. Of learning new skills. Of looking foolish temporarily. Of trying things that might fail. Of advocating for yourself. Of betting on yourself when others doubt. These discomforts are investments. They pay massive dividends. But only if you're willing to pay the upfront emotional cost. Rachel stayed in a retail management job for 12 years. $38,000 annually. She hated it but stayed because it was familiar. She daydreamed about starting a catering business for years but never did. Too risky. Too uncomfortable. Too uncertain. Meanwhile, her finances never improved. She hit 45 still living paycheck to paycheck. Finally, exhausted by mediocrity, she took the uncomfortable leap. Quit her job. Started catering on a shoestring. The first year was brutally uncomfortable. Uncertain income. Long hours. Imposter syndrome. But year 2 she matched her old salary. Year 3 she doubled it. Year 5 she's making $85,000 doing something she loves. That moment of intense discomfort, quitting the safe job, was the most financially intelligent decision of her life. Her willingness to be uncomfortable for 1 year created permanent financial elevation. Her decades of staying comfortable kept her broke. This pattern repeats infinitely. People stay in comfortable but dead-end careers. They stay in comfortable but financially draining relationships. They make comfortable but wealth-destroying financial decisions. They maintain comfortable but limiting beliefs. All because temporary discomfort feels worse than permanent mediocrity. This is the comfort trap. And it's invisible to those caught in it. If you asked Rachel during year 8 whether she was comfortable, she'd say no. She'd say she was stressed about money constantly. But she wasn't uncomfortable enough to change. That's the insidious nature of comfort. You're miserable but not quite miserable enough to embrace the discomfort of transformation. Breaking free requires reframing discomfort. Currently, you probably see discomfort as negative, something to avoid, minimize, escape. This view keeps you trapped. Wealthy people reframe discomfort as tuition, as evidence they're growing, as the tax paid for upgrading their circumstances. They seek strategic discomfort because they understand it's temporary and pays dividends. They've trained their nervous systems to associate discomfort with opportunity rather than threat. This neural association determines whether you build wealth or stay broke. You can deliberately retrain this association. Start by tracking comfort choices and their costs. When you don't negotiate, calculate the specific dollar cost. When you avoid a career conversation, estimate the opportunity cost. Make comfort's price tag explicit. Your brain responds to concrete data better than abstract principles. When you see that your comfort preference cost you $3,000, the pain of that loss becomes associated with comfort. Over time, comfort becomes less comfortable. You begin feeling discomfort about staying comfortable. This inversion is the turning point. Then deliberately choose small strategic discomforts weekly. Have one difficult conversation. Apply for one stretch role. Make one sales call despite fear. Learn one uncomfortable new skill. Each time you survive strategic discomfort and benefit from it, you weaken the neural pathway associating discomfort with danger. You strengthen the pathway associating discomfort with growth. This isn't motivational fluff. It's Hebbian learning. Neurons that fire together wire together. Fire, discomfort, and positive outcome together repeatedly, and they wire together. Eventually, discomfort starts feeling like opportunity instead of threat. This transformation takes months of consistent practice. Your brain doesn't rewire instantly. But it does rewire reliably if you consistently provide the right inputs. Every avoided discomfort strengthens comfort-seeking patterns. Every embraced strategic discomfort strengthens growth patterns. You're always training your brain one way or the other. The question is whether you're training it toward wealth or toward staying broke. Most people accidentally train themselves deeper into comfort patterns daily, then wonder why circumstances never change. The businesses that exist were built by people willing to be uncomfortable. The wealth that exists was accumulated by people willing to make uncomfortable decisions. The opportunities that exist go to people willing to risk comfortable mediocrity for uncomfortable possibility. This isn't inspiration. It's observation. Look around at wealthy people. None stayed permanently comfortable. All were willing to be strategically uncomfortable repeatedly. That willingness, more than intelligence or luck, determined outcomes. You're not less intelligent. You're not unluckier. You're just more committed to comfort. Change the commitment, change the outcome. Starting today, audit your comfort patterns. Where are you choosing familiar over optimal? Where are you avoiding discomfort at financial cost? Make a list. Then choose one area monthly to deliberately embrace discomfort. Month 1, negotiate something. Month 2, start a difficult career conversation. Month 3, learn an uncomfortable new skill. Month 4, try something with failure risk. Track the results. Notice that strategic discomfort doesn't kill you. Notice that it often produces better outcomes than comfort did. Let this evidence rewire your nervous system's association with discomfort. Within a year, you'll have dramatically expanded your comfort zone, which means you'll have dramatically expanded your wealth potential. Because your wealth ceiling is defined by the edge of your comfort zone. Expand the zone, raise the ceiling. This is how you stop paying comfort's hidden costs and start investing in strategic discomfort's massive dividends. Chapter 4. The truth about money that nobody teaches. Money isn't what you think it is. You were taught money is what you earn by trading your time. You work, you get paid, you spend it on life. This understanding keeps most people permanently broke because it's fundamentally wrong. Money isn't compensation for time. Money is a measurement of value created and problems solved. This distinction isn't semantic. It's the difference between lifetime poverty and generational wealth. And nobody teaches it because people teaching it don't understand it themselves. Here's the revolutionary truth. You don't get paid for your time. You get paid for the value you create within that time. Two people working identical hours earn vastly different amounts because they create vastly different value. A lawyer bills $300 per hour not because their time is inherently more valuable than a cashier's time, but because they've developed specialized knowledge that solves expensive problems. They create more value per hour. The market compensates value creation, not time expenditure. Once you understand this, everything changes. This explains patterns that seem unfair. Why do CEOs make millions while teachers make modest salaries despite teachers arguably contributing more to society? Because compensation follows value captured in markets, not value contributed to society. CEOs capture enormous value for shareholders. Teachers contribute immense social value but don't operate in markets that capture and compensate that value financially. This isn't a judgment of worthiness. It's observation of mechanics. Understanding mechanics allows you to navigate systems strategically. The psychology of the time for money mindset is limiting. When you believe you're paid for time, you focus on working more hours. You hustle. You grind. You add side gigs. You're exhausted but still broke because you're solving the wrong equation. You're trying to increase the time input while the actual variable determining compensation is value output. This is why people work 3 jobs and remain poor while others work 30 hours weekly and get wealthy. Different equations produce different results. Neuroscience reveals that your brain's framing of work determines your financial outcomes. If you frame work as trading time for money, your brain optimizes for time traded. It seeks hourly wages, salaried positions, additional jobs, more hours, all time-based thinking. But if you frame work as creating value that gets compensated, your brain optimizes completely differently. It seeks high-leverage activities, skills that create disproportionate value, problems where solutions command premiums, opportunities where small efforts create large returns. Same brain, different framing, entirely different financial trajectory. Consider 2 software engineers. Both work 40 hours weekly. One sees themselves as trading time for their $80,000 salary. They show up, code what they're told, leave. The other sees themselves as creating value that happens to take 40 hours. They focus on solving their company's most expensive problems. They develop skills in high-demand areas. They build relationships that lead to opportunities. They think about leverage and impact, not hours. Within 5 years, the first engineer makes $95,000. The second makes $180,000 and has multiple competing offers. Same industry, same hours. Different framing produced radically different value creation and compensation. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And the prepared mind understands that wealth comes from maximizing value created per unit of effort, not maximizing effort itself. This requires shifting from time consciousness to value consciousness. Every activity should be evaluated not by duration but by value generated. An hour spent developing a skill that increases your value is infinitely more wealth-building than an hour spent doing low-value work just to fill time. This principle extends beyond employment. Entrepreneurs often fall into the time-for-money trap by selling hours as consultants or service providers. They cap their income at the number of hours they can work. Wealthy entrepreneurs solve this by decoupling income from time. They create products that deliver value without requiring their hours. They build systems that generate value while they sleep. They hire people to deliver value on their behalf. They leverage capital to create value beyond their personal capacity. These aren't advanced strategies. They're applications of the fundamental principle that money follows value creation, not time expenditure. Let me break down practical applications. First, develop skills that create disproportionate value. Not all skills are equal. Some create $10 of value per hour. Others create $1,000 of value per hour. Identify high-value skills in your field and systematically develop them. This might mean coding in high-demand languages, or mastering negotiation, or developing strategic thinking, or learning to communicate complex ideas simply. These skills are force multipliers. They make every hour you work more valuable. This is the highest return investment of your time. Second, solve expensive problems. Companies pay more for solutions to expensive problems. If you solve a problem that saves a company $10,000, you can command more compensation than solving a problem that saves $100. Deliberately position yourself to work on high-stakes problems where value is obvious and substantial. This might mean switching departments, industries, or roles. But solving expensive problems is how you capture significant value. Third, create value that persists beyond your active involvement. Time for money models require your constant presence. Value creation models can persist and compound. Writing creates value that pays royalties for decades. Code written once can benefit thousands of users. A system designed once can process millions of transactions. A trained employee creates value after your training effort ends. Always ask, does this create one-time value or ongoing value? Prioritize activities that create compound returns. Fourth, understand that attention and demand determine value, not effort or worthiness. You might spend hours on something you consider valuable that the market doesn't want. Your effort doesn't create value. Meeting demand creates value. This is why artists often starve while commercial marketers prosper. Not because marketing is more worthy than art. Because market demand for marketing services exceeds demand for most art. Understanding this without resentment allows you to strategically create value in areas where demand exists and competition is manageable. Fifth, leverage multiplies value creation. Leverage means achieving more with less direct effort. Technology is leverage. Capital is leverage. People are leverage. Systems are leverage. Brands are leverage. The wealthy obsessively seek leverage because it multiplies their value creation beyond their personal capacity. An hour spent building a system that does work automatically is worth hundreds of hours of direct work. An hour spent creating content that reaches thousands is worth hundreds of hours of one-on-one conversations. Leverage makes your time exponentially more valuable. Derek spent 15 years as a skilled plumber charging hourly rates. He worked hard. He was excellent at his craft. But he stayed broke because he was trapped in time for money thinking. Then Derek had a realization. His customers didn't value his time. They valued having their plumbing problems solved without stress. So Derek restructured. Instead of hourly rates, he moved to flat-rate pricing based on value delivered. He trained apprentices to handle routine work while he focused on complex problems. He created maintenance contracts providing ongoing value. He developed a reputation for solving problems other plumbers couldn't. Within 3 years, his income tripled despite working fewer hours. He stopped trading time for money and started exchanging solutions for value-based compensation. Same skills, different model, radically different wealth. This is available to everyone willing to shift their framing. You don't need a different job necessarily. You need a different understanding of what you're actually selling. You're not selling time. You're selling value. Once this clicks, you optimize completely differently. You invest in skills that increase value per hour. You position yourself around expensive problems. You build leverage. You capture more value per effort unit. This compounds over years into wealth that time for money thinking could never achieve. The education system failed you by teaching that a degree plus hard work equals good income. That formula worked in industrial economies where laborers were paid for showing up and following instructions. It doesn't work in value economies where compensation follows value creation regardless of degrees or hours. This isn't unfair. It's just different rules. Learn the rules, play the game strategically, win the game. Ignore the rules, play by outdated assumptions. Stay broke wondering why hard work isn't enough. Starting today, audit every activity through value creation lens. Is this hour creating $10 of value or 1,000? Am I solving an expensive problem or a cheap problem? Am I building leverage or just working harder? Does this create one-time value or compound value? These questions reorient your entire approach. Then systematically increase your value creation rate. 1 skill development per quarter. 1 problem level increase per year. 1 leverage building activity per month. Track your hourly value rate. Watch it increase as you optimize for value instead of time. Within 2 years, you'll be creating 10 times more value per hour. The market will compensate accordingly. This is how you escape the time for money trap. This is how you finally understand what money actually is. A measurement of value you create, not time you expend. Master value creation, master wealth. It's that simple and that profound. Chapter 5. Why your money habits are sabotaging your future. You think you know your money habits. You budget or you don't. You save or you don't. You overspend or you're frugal. These surface-level observations miss the deeper patterns running your financial life. Hidden beneath conscious awareness are habitual neural pathways that govern 95% of your financial decisions. These subconscious habits were formed years ago through repetition and emotional conditioning. They operate automatically, and they're probably destroying your financial future while you remain completely unaware of their existence. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your financial outcomes are mathematically determined by your habits. Not your income level. Not your budget. Not your financial knowledge. Your habits. A person earning $40,000 with excellent habits will outwealth a person earning $120,000 with destructive habits every single time. Habits compound. Good habits compound wealth. Bad habits compound poverty. The trajectory is set by habits, not intelligence or earnings. Yet most people spend decades trying to earn more while never addressing the habits that ensure any extra income simply evaporates. The psychology of money habits reveals why they're so powerful and so invisible. Habits operate in your basal ganglia below conscious awareness. They're automatic responses triggered by cues. You don't decide to execute a habit. You encounter a cue, and the habit runs automatically before your conscious mind can intervene. This is why you overspend despite knowing better. Why you don't save despite understanding compound interest. Why you make impulsive purchases despite budgets. The knowing happens in your prefrontal cortex. The habits run from your basal ganglia. And basal ganglia wins every conflict with prefrontal cortex because it's faster and doesn't require conscious energy. Neuroscience has identified the habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. Something triggers the behavior. You execute the behavior. You receive some reward that reinforces the loop. 4 destructive money habits. This might look like feeling stressed, cue, impulse shopping, routine, temporary relief, reward. The routine gets reinforced every repetition. Your brain learns that stress equals shopping equals relief. This becomes automatic. Soon you're shopping without even noticing you're stressed. The habit runs so automatically that you think shopping just happens to you rather than recognizing it's a conditioned response. Most people have dozens of destructive money habits running simultaneously. Buying coffee out daily instead of making it at home. Upgrading phones yearly when current ones work fine. Eating out because cooking feels effortful. Buying premium brands when generic equivalents are identical. Subscribing to services barely used. These individual habits seem trivial. $4 for coffee. $20 for a meal. $40 for unused subscriptions. But they compound devastatingly. $4 daily for coffee is $1,500 annually. $20 for lunches daily is $5,000 annually. $40 monthly for unused subscriptions is $500 annually. These 3 habits alone cost $7,000 annually. Over 30 years invested at average returns, that's $400,000. $400,000 in wealth destroyed by 3 habits so automatic you don't even notice them. Consider checking account balance obsessively. Seems harmless or even responsible. But this habit triggers anxiety every time. The anxiety triggers stress spending for relief. You're unknowingly creating a feedback loop where the checking behavior increases the behavior it's supposedly preventing. Or consider the habit of immediately spending bonuses or windfalls. Emotionally, it feels like free money disconnected from your regular income. So spending it feels costless. But financially, that bonus could have been invested for compound returns. The habit of treating irregular income as spending money rather than investment capital costs astronomical amounts over decades. Or the habit of lifestyle inflation. Every raise or promotion you increase spending proportionally. New income, nicer apartment, fancier car, better restaurants. You're always spending everything you earn regardless of how much you earn. This habit ensures you never accumulate wealth no matter how high your income climbs. Someone earning $40,000 who saves 15% builds more wealth than someone earning $200,000 who saves 0%. The income is irrelevant if the habits ensure it all gets spent. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And the prepared mind recognizes that lasting financial transformation requires habit transformation, not just knowledge acquisition or income increases. You already know you should save. You already know compound interest is powerful. You already know impulsive spending is bad. Knowledge isn't your problem. Execution is your problem. And execution is determined by habits. Change your habits, change your execution, change your outcomes. Try to change outcomes without changing habits and you'll frustrate yourself into quitting. Transforming money habits requires a specific process. First, you must identify current habits. Most people are remarkably unaware of their own patterns. Track every dollar for 30 days. Not to judge, to observe. See the patterns. Notice you buy lunch out every day. Notice you make small purchases when stressed. Notice you avoid checking balances. Notice you shop when bored. This awareness step is critical. You can't change what you don't see. Most people skip this step, try to implement new behaviors, fail because old habits keep triggering, then conclude they lack discipline. The problem wasn't discipline. The problem was trying to override habits without understanding them. Second, identify the cues triggering destructive habits. You don't randomly spend. Something triggers it. Maybe stress. Maybe boredom. Maybe seeing advertisements. Maybe walking past certain stores. Maybe paydays. Maybe social situations. Each destructive habit has specific triggers. Identify them through observation. Once you know your cues, you can intervene before habits execute. This is infinitely easier than trying to stop the habit mid-execution. Interrupt the cue, prevent the habit. Third, design replacement habits that serve the same underlying need but with better financial outcomes. You can't just eliminate habits. You must replace them. If stress triggers shopping for relief, you need alternative stress relief that doesn't cost money. Exercise, meditation, calling friends. The replacement must genuinely address the need or it won't stick. If boredom triggers spending, you need free boredom solutions. Library, books, walking, learning. The key is meeting the underlying need with a financially constructive habit instead of a destructive one. Fourth, implement environmental design to make good habits automatic and bad habits difficult. Want to save automatically? Set up automatic transfers on payday before you can spend. Want to stop impulse shopping? Delete shopping apps and store credit cards in inconvenient locations. Want to avoid overeating out? Meal prep on Sundays so healthy food is most convenient. Want to invest consistently? Automate it. Your environment shapes your habits more than your willpower does. Design environments that default to good financial behaviors. Stop relying on willpower to overcome bad defaults. Fifth, track leading indicators, not just outcomes. Don't just track your savings balance. Track whether you executed your savings habit. Don't just track debt balances. Track whether you avoided unnecessary purchases. Habits determine outcomes. Celebrate habit execution even before outcomes change. This reinforces the habits that will eventually produce outcomes. Most people only reward themselves for outcomes which come slowly, so they get demotivated and quit before compound effects kick in. Reward habit execution immediately, and you'll sustain behaviors long enough for compound effects to emerge. Tanya made $70,000 annually but stayed broke for years. She'd try budgets and fail. She'd open savings accounts and drain them. She thought she lacked discipline. Actually, she had destructive habits she'd never addressed. Tanya would get stressed at work and shop online for relief. She'd receive paychecks and immediately spend on upgrades. She avoided checking balances because it caused anxiety. These habits were invisible to her. She just thought she was bad with money. Then Tanya learned about money habits. She tracked for 30 days and saw the patterns clearly for the first time. Stress preceded every shopping episode. Paydays triggered splurges. She realized she wasn't undisciplined. She was running automated programs installed years ago. Tanya redesigned her habits systematically. She identified that stress triggered shopping, so she implemented a habit of going for walks when stressed instead. She moved shopping apps to a folder requiring multiple swipes to access, creating friction. She automated 20% of her paycheck to savings on payday before she could spend it. She scheduled weekly money dates to check balances, making it routine instead of anxiety-inducing. These changes felt difficult for 2 months. Then they became automatic. 1 year later, Tanya had saved $15,000 despite identical income. Her habits changed. Her outcomes followed. She hadn't become a different person. She'd rewired her automatic behaviors. This is available to anyone. Your current habits aren't who you are. They're programs you're running. Programs can be rewritten, but it requires systematic effort, not just wanting different outcomes. Identify, understand, replace, automate, reward. This process, applied consistently for 3 to 6 months, rewires your financial autopilot. Your new habits start generating wealth automatically, just like old habits generated poverty automatically. The compound effects of good habits eventually become unstoppable. Here's what nobody tells you. Willpower is a terrible strategy. Willpower depletes. Habits don't. Trying to resist destructive habits through willpower means fighting a battle daily. Eventually, you lose because willpower runs out. But redesigning your habit architecture means your autopilot starts working for you instead of against you. No willpower required. You're not resisting temptation. The temptation doesn't even trigger because you've rewired the cues and routines. Starting today, commit to the 30-day tracking period. Every purchase, every financial decision. Just observe without judgment. See your patterns. Then over the following months, systematically redesign one habit monthly. Month 1, automate savings. Month 2, eliminate one destructive spending trigger. Month 3, replace one expensive habit with a free alternative. Month 4, implement environmental friction against bad habits. Month 5, create accountability systems. Month 6, reward yourself for habit execution consistently. At month 6, audit your progress. Notice your savings growing. Notice destructive patterns weakening. Notice new behaviors feeling automatic. You're not the same financial person you were. You rewired your habits. Your future is different now. Not because you earn more. Because you programmed your autopilot to build wealth instead of destroy it. This is how you escape the habit trap. This is how you make your daily behaviors work for your future instead of sabotaging it. Chapter 6. The compound effect nobody believes until it's too late. Compound growth is the most powerful force in wealth building. Yet almost nobody acts on this knowledge. You hear about it, nod along, then ignore it completely. You prioritize immediate returns over exponential long-term growth. You spend 20 years making decisions that feel good today but guarantee mediocrity tomorrow. Then suddenly you're 50 with minimal savings, wondering where time went. The compound effect didn't fail you. You failed to take it seriously until too late. This pattern destroys more financial futures than any other single factor. Here's why compound growth is so powerful and so ignored. Small differences compound into massive divergences over time. 2 people start at 25. One invests $300 monthly. The other spends that $300 on lifestyle upgrades. Both seem reasonable. The investor doesn't seem much better off at 30. 5 years, $18,000 invested. Meanwhile, the spender enjoyed immediate gratification. At 30, outcomes barely differ. So the spender feels validated. But then time does its magic. At 40, the investor has built substantial wealth through compound returns. At 50, they're financially independent. At 60, they're wealthy. The spender at 60 is panicked, broke, and trapped in a job they can't afford to leave. Same starting point. Small different choices. Radically different destinations. The compound effect created a lifetime of divergence from what seemed like trivial early differences. The psychology of compound effects explains why humans struggle with them. Our brains evolved for linear thinking. If one day of gathering produces food for one day, 10 days produces food for 10 days. Linear. But compound growth is exponential. Early phases look insignificant. Nothing seems to be happening. So our linear brains conclude the effort isn't working. We quit before the exponential curve starts climbing. This is the tragedy. People invest for 3 years, see modest returns, conclude investing doesn't work, and quit just before compound effects would have accelerated their wealth dramatically. Neuroscience reveals that our reward centers respond to immediate gratification far more intensely than delayed rewards. Even when we intellectually understand compound benefits are larger, our limbic system prioritizes today's pleasure over tomorrow's wealth. This brain architecture was adaptive for survival. Prioritizing immediate food over potential future food kept our ancestors alive. But in modern financial contexts, it keeps us permanently broke. We choose spending today over wealth tomorrow not because we're stupid but because our brains literally experience more pleasure from immediate rewards despite knowing intellectually that compound growth produces superior long-term outcomes. Consider the mathematics of compound growth. Investing $500 monthly starting at 25, earning average market returns of 10% annually, results in $3.2 million by age 65. The same $500 monthly starting at 35 results in $1.1 million. Starting at 45 results in $400,000. Same monthly amount. Different start dates. Dramatically different outcomes. Each year of delay costs hundreds of thousands in final wealth. Not because you contributed less. Because you lost years of compound growth. Time in the market is more valuable than timing the market or contribution size. Yet people spend their 20s and 30s consuming every dollar, planning to invest seriously later. Later arrives with lost decades of compound growth permanently gone. Or consider career compound effects. Developing valuable skills at 25, even if they don't immediately increase income, compounds throughout your career. Those skills make you more effective, leading to more opportunities, leading to higher compensation, leading to more skill development, creating a positive spiral. Meanwhile, someone who skips skill development for immediate income maximization stays locked at lower effectiveness. Their income grows linearly with experience years. Yours grows exponentially through compounding capabilities. Same years worked, different trajectories. The person who prioritized learning at 25 is a senior executive at 45. The person who prioritized immediate income is still mid-level, wondering why they're stuck. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And the prepared mind understands that your 20s and 30s are for planting seeds that bear fruit in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. Most people spend those decades consuming their harvest before planting seeds. Then they wonder why their 40s and 50s produce no fruit. You can't harvest what you didn't plant. And planting takes time to mature. The compound effect rewards early planters and punishes late starters. This isn't unfair. It's mathematics. Mathematics is neutral. Either align with mathematical reality or suffer the consequences of ignoring it. The practical application is straightforward but difficult to execute. Start everything as early as possible. Start investing in your 20s, not your 40s. Start building skills immediately, not eventually. Start creating value that compounds, not just earning paychecks. Start building relationships that compound, not just transactional contacts. Start learning what compounds knowledge, not just consuming entertainment. Every year of delay in starting compound-generating activities costs you exponentially in long-term outcomes. Most people respond to this advice with excuses. I can't afford to invest in my 20s. Actually, you can't afford not to. Even $50 monthly starting at 25 becomes huge wealth over 40 years through compounding. Starting with zero but adding to it beats starting large later. I need to focus on income now, not learning. Actually, skills compound into higher income. The learning is the income investment. I'm too old to start now. No, you're not. You're only too old to achieve what you could have achieved if you'd started earlier. But starting today is still infinitely better than starting next year. Every day of delay costs you compound growth. Brandon didn't understand compound effects until 38. He'd spent his 20s and 30s spending everything he earned. He made good money but saved nothing. No investments. No skill development beyond his job. No compound generating activities. At 38 he finally understood. He started investing aggressively. He developed new skills. He built side income streams. But he'd lost 15 years of compound growth. At 65 he'll have wealth. But nothing like he'd have had if he'd started at 25. He did the math. Starting at 25 with modest contributions would have given him twice the wealth of starting at 38 with larger contributions. Time was more valuable than money. He understood too late. Don't be Brandon. Start today regardless of your age. If you're 25, you have 40 years of compound growth ahead. Start immediately. If you're 35, you have 30 years. Start immediately. If you're 45, you have 20 years. Start immediately. If you're 55, you have 10 years. Start immediately. Each year waiting costs exponentially more than you realize. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. This cliché is true for compound growth. The specific applications span all wealth areas. For investing, automate contributions immediately. Don't wait until you can afford more. Start with whatever you can today. The habit and time in market matter more than contribution size. 4 skills. Identify high-value skills in your field and dedicate time weekly to development. This compounds throughout your career into exponentially higher earning capacity. 4 side income. Start building even if returns are minimal initially. Those streams compound as you improve and scale them. For health, start fitness habits now. Health compounds. Neglect compounds into disease. For relationships, invest in key relationships consistently. Networks compound in value and opportunities. Here's the critical insight. Compound growth feels like failure during early phases. You're investing but your account is small. You're learning but you're not advanced. You're building but results are minimal. This makes quitting feel rational. Nothing's happening. But quitting during this phase is the tragedy. You're quitting just before the exponential curve begins climbing. The first years of compound growth are investment phases. Returns come later, but they come dramatically if you persist. Understanding this prevents the common pattern of starting, seeing minimal initial results, quitting, then starting something else, repeating the cycle, never staying in anything long enough for compound effects to manifest. Starting today, identify 3 areas where compound effects could transform your outcomes. Probably investing, skill development, and health. Commit to consistent action in each area regardless of visible results. Daily or weekly non-negotiable actions. Investing, automate even small amounts. Skills, schedule weekly learning time. Health, commit to daily movement. Then trust the process for years, not months. Don't judge results quarterly. Judge after 5 years. Give compound effects time to work. Most people never experience compound effects because they never give them time. They're constantly restarting, seeking faster results, never allowing the slow magic of compounding to manifest. Be different. Start early if you can. Start today if you're late. Stay consistent for years. Then watch as small actions compound into life-changing outcomes. This is the secret wealthy people know and broke people ignore until it's too late. Don't ignore it. Act on it now. Your future self will thank you. Chapter 7. Breaking the Paycheck-to-Paycheck Prison. Living paycheck to paycheck is a cage with invisible bars. You're not broke. You have income. Bills get paid. But there's nothing left over. One unexpected expense creates crisis. You can't quit your job no matter how much you hate it. You can't take risks. You can't invest in opportunities. You can't rest. You're trapped in a cycle where you work to survive until next payday, then repeat. This isn't poverty in the traditional sense. It's financial fragility, and it affects 78% of workers regardless of income level. You can make six figures and live paycheck to paycheck. This isn't an income problem. It's a structural problem. And structural problems require structural solutions, not just earning more. Here's the brutal reality. Earning more doesn't end paycheck to paycheck living if you don't change your financial structure. Studies show people making $200,000 annually are almost as likely to live paycheck to paycheck as people making $50,000. Because lifestyle expenses expand to match income. You get a raise, you upgrade your life. Bigger apartment, newer car, better restaurants, more subscriptions. Suddenly you're spending everything again despite higher income. The cage just got bigger. You're still trapped. This is why make more money advice doesn't solve paycheck to paycheck living. The income isn't the issue. How income is managed is the issue. The psychology of paycheck to paycheck living creates chronic stress that damages health, relationships, and decision-making. Your nervous system never relaxes. Every bill due triggers anxiety. Every car noise might be an expensive repair. Every phone call from an unknown number might be collections. You're in constant financial vigilance. This keeps your cortisol elevated, your amygdala hyperactive, and your prefrontal cortex impaired. You can't think clearly. You can't plan long-term. You're trapped in reactive survival mode. This isn't a character flaw. It's a neurobiological response to financial fragility. The reason most people stay trapped is they're trying to solve the wrong problem. They think they need more income, so they work more hours, take second jobs, pursue side hustles. But remember, earning more without changing structure just creates a bigger cage. What actually breaks paycheck to paycheck living is building buffer capital. Buffer capital is money between you and catastrophe. Money that breaks the income to expense linkage. Money that gives you breathing room. Without buffer capital, you're perpetually one problem away from disaster. With it, life's uncertainties stop being emergencies. Neuroscience reveals that having buffer capital actually changes your brain function. Financial security, even modest security, deactivates threat responses. Your amygdala calms. Your prefrontal cortex re-engages. You can think strategically again. You make better decisions. Those better decisions improve outcomes. Improved outcomes create more security. This is the upward spiral. But you can't enter the spiral without initial buffer capital. That's why building buffer capital is the most important financial goal for anyone living paycheck to paycheck. Not investing. Not debt payoff. Buffer capital first. It's the foundation enabling everything else. Building buffer capital while living paycheck to paycheck seems impossible. That's the prison talking. It's not impossible. It's uncomfortable. There's a difference. It requires temporarily increasing the gap between income and expenses. Since you probably can't dramatically increase income immediately, you must dramatically decrease expenses temporarily. Not forever. Temporarily. Until you've built enough buffer to escape the immediate crisis cycle. This requires sacrifice most people won't make because temporary discomfort feels worse than permanent fragility. But temporary discomfort breaks the prison. Permanent fragility is the prison. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And the prepared mind recognizes that breaking paycheck to paycheck living is a three-phase process. Phase 1. Immediate expense reduction to create initial buffer. Phase 2. Buffer expansion until you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. Phase 3. Normal financial life where you can invest, pay down debt strategically, and build wealth. Most people skip Phase 1 and jump to Phase 3. They try investing while living paycheck to paycheck. They try paying extra on debt while having no buffer. This creates stress and usually fails because the first unexpected expense derails everything. Build the foundation first. Then build the house. Phase 1 requires aggressive expense reduction. This is temporary but intense. Cut everything non-essential. Cancel subscriptions. Stop eating out. Brew coffee at home. Avoid entertainment spending. Shop sales only. Use every dollar saved to build buffer capital. The goal is accumulating $1,000 as fast as possible. $1,000 breaks many crisis cycles. Car repair, medical bill, broken appliance. $1,000 handles most unexpected expenses without creating debt or panic. This $1,000 is your emergency fund. It's your first wall between you and disaster. Most people take months to save $1,000 because they don't treat it urgently. They casually save 20s here and there. Meanwhile, life happens and the money gets spent. You need intensity. Sell stuff you don't use. Pick up overtime. Skip expensive habits temporarily. Do whatever it takes to accumulate that first $1,000 within 4 to 8 weeks. This aggressive approach requires discomfort. But 8 weeks of discomfort to build a foundation that provides years of security is an asymmetric trade. Most people won't do it because temporary discomfort feels intolerable. This is why they stay trapped permanently. Maria lived paycheck to paycheck for 6 years despite decent income. Every unexpected expense went on credit cards. She paid minimums, barely staying afloat. She tried budgeting but always failed because life kept happening. Finally, Maria decided to break the cycle. She cut expenses ruthlessly for 2 months. Canceled Netflix, Spotify, and gym membership. Stopped eating out entirely. Made coffee at home. Sold clothes and electronics she didn't use. It was uncomfortable. She felt deprived. But 2 months later, she had $1,000 in savings for the first time in years. Then her car needed a $600 repair. Instead of panic and credit cards, she paid cash from her emergency fund. The relief was profound. She experienced financial resilience for the first time. That experience motivated her to continue. Over the next year, she built her emergency fund to $6,000 while slowly reintroducing reasonable expenses. The paycheck-to-paycheck prison was broken. Not because she earned more. Because she built buffer capital. Phase 2 expands buffer from $1,000 to 3 to 6 months of expenses. This takes longer. But you're not in crisis mode anymore. You have $1,000 handling most surprises. Now you systematically build larger buffer. Calculate your monthly essential expenses. Multiply by 3 at minimum, 6 for better security. That's your target buffer capital. Reaching this might take 12 to 36 months depending on your situation. But every month you add to it, you're more secure. You're building walls between you and financial fragility. During this phase, maintain expense discipline but less intensely than phase 1. You can reintroduce some reasonable spending. But prioritize buffer building. Automate savings on payday before you can spend it. Even 100 or 200 monthly compounds into substantial buffer over time. The key is consistency and automation. Manual saving fails because impulse spending intercepts the money. Automation ensures buffer growth regardless of your discipline in the moment. Phase 3 begins once you have 3 to 6 months of expenses and buffer capital. Now you can breathe. You can take strategic risks. You can negotiate better because you're not desperate. You can quit toxic jobs because you have runway. You can invest for long-term growth. You can pay down debt aggressively without vulnerability. You can live normal financial life without constant crisis. This is financial freedom's foundation. Not millions in the bank. Just enough buffer that life's uncertainties stop being emergencies. Most people never reach this because they never commit to phases 1 and 2. The psychological shift from paycheck to buffered is massive. Your nervous system exits survival mode. You sleep better. Your relationships improve because money stress decreases. Your work performance improves because you're not anxious. Your decision-making improves because your prefrontal cortex is back online. This creates an upward spiral. Buffer capital enables better decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. Better outcomes build more security. The rich get richer, but it started with building initial buffer capital that broke the crisis cycle. Starting today, commit to phase 1 if you're living paycheck to paycheck. 8-week intensive expense reduction to build $1,000 emergency fund. Track every dollar. Cut ruthlessly. Sell possessions. Find extra income. Hit that $1,000 as fast as possible. Then immediately start phase 2. Build to 3 months expenses. Then 6 months. Don't skip steps. Don't try investing before you have buffer. Don't try anything else. Build the foundation first. Once you have it, everything else becomes possible. But without it, you're building on sand. Every financial strategy fails under the constant stress of paycheck-to-paycheck fragility. Break the prison first. Build buffer capital. Then build wealth. This sequence works. Reversing it doesn't. Chapter 8. The real reason you're not investing. You know you should invest. You've heard about compound growth. You understand that not investing means losing to inflation. Yet you're still not investing. Or you started once, got scared, sold at a loss, and never tried again. Or you have a retirement account you ignore and never add to beyond employer matches. The intellectual knowledge is there. The action isn't. This gap between knowing and doing is where financial futures die. And the reason for the gap isn't what you think. It's not lack of money. It's not lack of knowledge. It's psychological barriers you don't even recognize exist. The first barrier is the illusion of knowledge. You think you need to understand everything before investing. How markets work, how to pick stocks, how to time purchases, how to analyze companies. This need for complete understanding paralyzes you because complete understanding is impossible. Markets are complex systems. Professionals with decades of experience get them wrong constantly. So you, feeling like you don't understand enough, wait. You'll invest once you learn more. But more never comes because the goalpost keeps moving. This is analysis paralysis disguised as prudence. You're using incomplete knowledge as an excuse to avoid the discomfort of risk. The second barrier is loss aversion. Psychological research shows humans feel losses approximately twice as intensely as equivalent gains. Losing $1,000 hurts more than gaining $1,000 feels good. This asymmetry means investing, which involves risk of loss, triggers intense fear disproportionate to potential gains. Even though historical data overwhelmingly shows long-term investing produces positive returns, your brain fixates on loss possibility. This loss aversion keeps money in savings accounts earning nothing because zero growth feels safer than potential loss, even though inflation means your safe savings is losing purchasing power annually. The third barrier is present bias. Investment returns happen in the future, often distant future. But the money you'd invest is available now. You could spend it today on things providing immediate satisfaction. Your brain values today's pleasure more than tomorrow's wealth, even when tomorrow's wealth is mathematically superior. So you perpetually intend to invest next month or next year while spending today's money on current desires. Time passes. No investing happens. You remain broke despite good intentions because intentions are worth nothing without execution. The fourth barrier is identity misalignment. You don't see yourself as an investor. Investors are rich people, Wall Street types, not regular people like you. This identity block prevents action even when you have knowledge and opportunity. Taking action that contradicts your self-identity feels wrong at a deep level. So you don't invest because people like me don't do that. This is perhaps the most insidious barrier because it operates completely unconsciously. You're not aware you hold this belief. It just manifests as chronic inaction for reasons you can't articulate. The fifth barrier is fear of looking stupid. You're afraid you'll invest wrong, lose money, and feel foolish. Or worse, someone will discover you invested badly and judge you. This social fear overrides logical understanding that everyone makes mistakes and that long-term investing succeeds despite short-term volatility. So you avoid investing to avoid potential embarrassment. Meanwhile, the real embarrassment, reaching 65 broke, gets ignored because it's far away and hypothetical. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And the prepared mind recognizes these barriers not as valid reasons but as psychological obstacles to overcome. None of them are actually preventing you from investing. They're excuses your fear generates. Let's dismantle each one and provide pathways through them. For the illusion of knowledge, you don't need to understand everything. You need to understand one simple fact. Broadly diversified, low-cost index funds consistently outperform most professional investors over long periods. That's it. You don't need to pick stocks. You don't need to time markets. You don't need complex strategies. Buy index funds. Hold them for decades. This simple approach beats 90% of complex approaches. The knowledge requirement is minimal. Your need for more knowledge is a stalling tactic your fear uses to prevent action. 4. Loss aversion. Reframe investing as protection against the guaranteed loss of inflation rather than risk of potential loss. Not investing means definitely losing purchasing power. Investing means probably gaining despite temporary volatility. When framed correctly, not investing is the risky choice and investing is the prudent choice. Additionally, start small enough that potential losses feel manageable. You can't eliminate risk, but you can start with amounts where loss wouldn't devastate you. This reduces fear to manageable levels while building comfort with investing. 4. Present bias. Automate investments before you can spend the money. If investing is optional and manual, present bias wins. If it's automatic and invisible, future self wins by default. Automation is how you defeat your brain's preference for immediate gratification. The money moves to investments before your conscious mind can redirect it to spending. Over time, automated investing becomes invisible. You adjust to living on what remains. Your future wealth builds without requiring ongoing discipline. For identity misalignment, start calling yourself an investor. Even if you're just starting. Even if amounts are small. You're someone who invests. This identity shift makes investing feel consistent with who you are rather than something foreign. Additionally, recognize that regular people absolutely do invest. It's not just for the rich. In fact, investing is how regular people become financially secure. It's more abnormal to not invest than to invest. Reframe who investors are to include yourself. 4. Fear of looking stupid. Recognize that nobody cares about your investment choices except you. Seriously, nobody is tracking your portfolio, judging you. And anyone who would judge is probably not investing successfully themselves. Successful investors understand that everyone makes mistakes and that long-term success comes from consistency, not perfection. Besides, your bigger risk is looking back at 65 wishing you'd started decades earlier. That regret will feel far worse than any short-term embarrassment. Ryan avoided investing for 15 years despite decent income. He always had reasons. I don't understand it enough. What if I lose money? I'll invest more once I'm making more. I need that money for other things. The years passed. He remained uninvested. Then at 40, Ryan's father retired broke. No savings. No investments. Dependent on Social Security. Ryan watched his father struggle and realized he was on the exact same path. That fear finally overrode his investing fears. Ryan started simple. Low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Automated 100 monthly. That's it. Nothing complicated. The first year his account grew. He felt stupid for waiting. The second year the market dropped. His account lost value. Old fears activated. But he'd learned about long-term investing by then. He held. The market recovered. By year 5, despite all the volatility, his account had grown substantially. He increased contributions. By 45, he had $60,000 invested. Still behind where he should have been, but infinitely better than zero. The hardest part was starting. Once he started, inertia worked in his favor. The truth is, investing is simple. Not easy emotionally, but simple mechanically. You open a brokerage account. You set up automatic monthly transfers. You buy low-cost index funds. You hold for decades. You don't check constantly. You don't panic sell in downturns. You just let compound growth do its work. This approach, started in your 20s and maintained for 40 years, creates wealth reliably. It's not exciting. It doesn't require genius. It just requires starting and persisting. But most people never start because psychological barriers prevent action despite intellectual understanding. Starting today, decide that you will begin investing this month. Not eventually. This month. Even if it's $50. Even if you don't feel ready. Start. Open a brokerage account. Choose a target date fund or total market index fund. Set up automatic monthly transfers. Then don't touch it for years. Don't check obsessively. Don't panic in downturns. Just let it work. The first step is the hardest. Once money starts flowing to investments automatically, inertia takes over. You adjust to living on what remains. Your investments grow quietly in the background. Years later, you'll have wealth you couldn't have achieved any other way. But it requires overcoming psychological barriers to take that first step. The barriers are real but conquerable. Knowledge alone doesn't conquer them. Action does. Take action despite fear. That's how you finally start investing. That's how you stop being broke. Chapter 9. Financial literacy they don't teach in school. The education system failed you financially. You spent 12 years learning subjects you'll never use while never learning how money actually works. You weren't taught about compound interest. You weren't taught about taxes. You weren't taught about investing or debt or insurance or contracts. You graduated completely unprepared for the financial decisions that would determine your quality of life. This wasn't an accident. The system wasn't designed to create financially independent people. It was designed to create compliant workers who trade time for money without questioning the structure. And it worked perfectly. Most people reach adulthood with no financial literacy, making predictable mistakes that keep them broke forever. Here's what you should have learned but didn't. Money is fundamentally about options. The more money you have, the more choices available. The less money you have, the fewer choices. Being broke isn't just lacking money. It's lacking options. You can't quit bad jobs. You can't move for better opportunities. You can't say no to exploitative situations. You can't invest in yourself. You're forced to accept whatever circumstances offer because you lack financial power to choose better. This is why wealth matters. Not for luxury. For autonomy. Understanding this reframes your entire relationship with money from consumption to liberation. You should have learned that most people are legally robbed daily through financial illiteracy. Credit cards charging 20% interest. Payday loans charging 400%. Overdraft fees extracting $35 for covering a $5 shortage. Rent-to-own schemes where you pay triple retail value. Insurance you don't need sold through fear. These predatory systems extract wealth from people who don't understand math. The financially illiterate pay massive poverty premiums throughout life. Learning the math behind these systems isn't complex. It's fourth-grade arithmetic. But nobody teaches you to apply it to financial decisions. So you pay exponentially more for everything while wealthy people pay less. The financially literate build wealth. The financially illiterate fund that wealth through fees, interest, and exploitation. You should have learned that taxes are your largest lifetime expense and that minimizing them legally is essential. Most people obsess over saving $50 on groceries while never learning that tax strategy could save $50,000 annually. Tax-advantaged accounts. Strategic timing of income and deductions. Understanding marginal versus effective tax rates. These concepts aren't complicated, but ignorance costs you hundreds of thousands over a lifetime. The system is designed with loopholes for people who understand them. You were deliberately kept ignorant of those loopholes. Meanwhile, wealthy people exploit every advantage while you pay full freight. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's documented reality. Financial literacy about taxes alone could transform your wealth trajectory. But nobody taught you because keeping you overpaying serves the system. You should have learned that debt is a tool that's either empowering or enslaving depending on how you use it. Taking debt to buy depreciating assets that produce no income is financial suicide. Taking debt to acquire appreciating assets or income-producing investments is strategic leverage. But schools never taught this distinction. So people casually take $40,000 car loans at 8% interest for vehicles losing value the moment they drive off the lot. Meanwhile, they fear mortgages that allow them to own appreciating real estate instead of paying rent forever. The financially illiterate avoid good debt and embrace bad debt. This single reversal could change everything. You should have learned that your biggest wealth-building tool is your income-earning ability, and protecting and developing it should be your top priority. Disability insurance protects your income if you can't work. Yet most people have none. Continuous skill development increases your earning capacity exponentially. Yet most people stop learning after school. Your human capital, your ability to generate income, is worth millions over your lifetime. It's your most valuable asset. But nobody taught you to treat it as such. So you neglect its protection and development while obsessing over far smaller financial decisions. You should have learned about lifestyle inflation and how it destroys wealth silently. Every raise you get, you increase spending proportionally. You're always spending everything regardless of income level. This keeps you perpetually broke despite rising earnings. The alternative, maintaining spending while income rises, creates ever-widening gaps that become savings and investments. Someone earning $40,000 who maintains that lifestyle while income grows to $80,000 suddenly has $40,000 annually for wealth building. This one concept, applied consistently, creates millionaires from modest incomes. But nobody teaches it. So people with high incomes stay broke because spending rises with earnings. You should have learned that investing isn't gambling. It's participating in productive business growth through ownership. When you buy stocks, you own pieces of actual companies creating value. Those companies generate profits. As an owner, you receive a share of those profits through appreciation and dividends. This is fundamentally different from gambling, where you're betting against statistical odds and zero-sum games. Yet financial illiteracy causes people to see investing as gambling while simultaneously spending money on actual gambling like lotteries. The confusion costs them compound growth that would create generational wealth. You should have learned about fees and how they devastate long-term returns. A seemingly small 2% annual fee on investments costs you over 60% of your potential wealth over 40 years due to compound effects. Yet most people never examine fees on their 401ks or investment accounts. They're invisible wealth extraction. Meanwhile, low-cost index funds with 0.03% fees exist. The difference between 2% and 0.03% fees on $1 million portfolio over 30 years is roughly $600,000. $600,000 extracted through fee ignorance. Schools didn't teach you to look at fees. The financial industry prefers you don't. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And preparing your mind requires learning what the system deliberately didn't teach you. This isn't advanced knowledge. It's basic financial literacy that's deliberately withheld because financially literate populations are harder to exploit. So you must become self-educated. The information exists freely. Online courses, books, videos, podcasts. You have access to more financial education than any previous generation. The barrier isn't access. It's prioritization. Most people spend more time learning about celebrity gossip than learning about compound interest. This priority structure guarantees poverty. Here's your real-world financial literacy curriculum. First, understand the time value of money. Money today is worth more than money tomorrow because today's money can be invested to grow. This means debt is expensive because you're paying tomorrow's devalued money for today's purchases. It also means delayed investing is costly because you're losing compound growth time. This one concept clarifies countless financial decisions. When you truly understand time value, you stop delaying investing, you pay off high-interest debt aggressively, and you prioritize decisions generating compounding returns. Second, understand marginal thinking. The next dollar you earn is taxed at your marginal rate, not your average rate. The next dollar you spend could instead be invested for compound returns. The next hour you work costs you whatever alternative you're not doing. Marginal thinking means analyzing decisions at the margin rather than in totals. This prevents common mistakes like working overtime at $30 hourly when that triggers a higher tax bracket, leaving you with $18 after tax while sacrificing family time. Or spending $10,000 on a car upgrade when that $10,000 invested would become $40,000 in 20 years. Third, understand risk-adjusted returns. Higher returns usually mean higher risk. Anyone promising high returns with low risk is lying. Understanding this prevents scam victimization. It also clarifies that safe investments with low returns might be appropriate for short-term money while higher-risk investments are appropriate for long-term money. The financially illiterate chase high returns without understanding risk, or avoid risk entirely without understanding inflation. Neither approach builds wealth. Matching risk profile to timeline does. Fourth, understand asymmetric risk and reward. Some bets offer limited downside but unlimited upside. These are worth taking. Others offer limited upside but unlimited downside. These should be avoided religiously. For example, starting a business with minimal capital investment has limited downside. You lose a few $1,000s in time, but potentially unlimited upside. Meanwhile, taking on massive debt for a degree in an oversaturated field has limited upside, modest income potential, but massive downside, decades of debt. Most people take bad asymmetric bets while avoiding good ones because they don't understand the framework. Fifth, understand behavioral biases that cause poor financial decisions. Recency bias makes you think recent market performance will continue, causing you to buy high and sell low. Confirmation bias makes you seek information supporting existing beliefs rather than challenging them. Availability bias makes you overweight dramatic but unlikely risks while ignoring boring but common risks. Anchoring bias makes you fixate on irrelevant numbers in negotiations. These biases are hardwired. Knowing they exist doesn't eliminate them, but it allows you to create decision frameworks that override them. For instance, automating investments removes emotional timing decisions. Creating rules-based spending guidelines overrides impulse purchases. Sixth, understand that personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% knowledge. Chapter 10, The Forever Wealthy Mindset. You've journeyed through 9 chapters of truth bombs about why most people stay broke. You understand the invisible ceiling, the broke mode brain, the comfort trap, the money fundamentals, the habit patterns, the compound effect, the paycheck prison, the investing barriers, the missing financial literacy. This knowledge is valuable, but knowledge alone changes nothing. Millions of people know what to do financially yet remain broke. The final piece isn't information, it's transformation. It's adopting the forever wealthy mindset that makes everything else automatic and sustainable. Without this mindset shift, you'll intellectually agree with everything you've read, then do nothing. With it, transformation becomes inevitable. The forever wealthy mindset is fundamentally different from how most people think about money. Most people see money as scarce, as something to chase, to worry about, to protect desperately. This scarcity mindset creates the exact outcomes it fears. When you operate from scarcity, you make fear-based decisions. You avoid risks that could elevate you. You cling to mediocrity because losing what little you have feels terrifying. You compete for crumbs while never realizing there's a whole feast available if you just shift your thinking. Scarcity mindset guarantees scarcity outcomes regardless of how hard you work. The forever wealthy mindset operates from abundance. Not delusional abundance where you pretend resources are infinite, but strategic abundance, recognizing that value creation generates wealth, and value creation opportunities are genuinely abundant. When you create value, people pay you. When you create exceptional value, people pay you exceptionally. There's no cap on this. The market isn't a finite pie you fight over. It's an expanding ecosystem where value creation generates wealth reliably. This isn't positive thinking. It's recognizing economic reality. Wealth comes from creating value. Value creation opportunities are everywhere. Therefore, wealth opportunities are everywhere. This shift from scarcity to abundance thinking changes everything about how you approach finances. The psychology of the forever wealthy mindset reveals distinct patterns. Wealthy people think long-term. Poor people think short-term. Wealthy people invest in assets. Poor people buy liabilities thinking they're assets. Wealthy people see setbacks as feedback. Poor people see setbacks as failure. Wealthy people take calculated risks. Poor people either avoid risk entirely or take stupid risks impulsively. Wealthy people spend money to make money. Poor people try to save their way to wealth. Wealthy people prioritize learning. Poor people prioritize entertainment. Wealthy people build multiple income streams. Poor people rely on single sources. These aren't moral superiorities. They're thinking patterns that produce different outcomes. Neuroscience shows that your beliefs about money literally shape your brain's perception of financial opportunities. If you believe wealth is impossible for people like you, your reticular activating system filters out opportunity evidence and amplifies scarcity evidence. You'll see every obstacle and miss every opening. If you believe wealth is achievable through value creation, your RAS highlights opportunities and minimizes obstacles. Same reality, different perception, different actions, different outcomes. Your mindset literally determines what opportunities you see or miss. This is why mindset isn't soft psychology. It's practical neurology determining financial outcomes. The forever wealthy mindset embraces specific beliefs that must be installed and reinforced until automatic. First belief: I create my financial reality through my decisions and actions. Most broke people believe external forces determine their finances. The economy, their boss, their circumstances, their past. This victim mindset is psychologically comfortable because it absolves you of responsibility, but it also removes your power. If external forces control your finances, you're helpless. If you control your finances through decisions, you're powerful. The forever wealthy reject victimhood regardless of past circumstances because victimhood kills agency. They accept radical responsibility for outcomes. This feels heavy initially, but it's profoundly liberating because it means you can change outcomes by changing decisions. Second belief: money is abundant and flows to value creation. Scarcity mindset sees money as limited. What you get, someone else loses. This zero-sum thinking creates competitive poverty consciousness. Forever wealthy mindset recognizes money flows continuously. It's not about taking from others. It's about creating value others willingly exchange money for. When you solve problems, improve lives, or create joy, people pay you. The more value you create, the more money flows. There's no cap. This abundance mindset removes the competitive stress of scarcity thinking and focuses you on value creation. Third belief: investing in myself generates the highest returns. Most people see spending on education, health, or skill development as costs to minimize. Forever wealthy see them as investments with compound returns. A course teaching valuable skills might cost $2,000 but increase your income by $20,000 annually for decades. That's a 10-to-1 return annually, compounding over your career. There's no investment vehicle delivering those returns. Yet people readily spend $2,000 on vacation, which delivers temporary enjoyment, while resisting investing it in education that could transform their earning capacity permanently. Fourth belief: discomfort is the price of growth. Broke mindset seeks comfort constantly. Forever wealthy mindset embraces strategic discomfort knowing it's temporary and pays dividends. Having difficult negotiations. Learning challenging skills. Starting ventures with failure risk. These discomforts feel bad in the moment but create permanent elevation. Wealthy people have trained themselves to associate discomfort with opportunity. Their nervous systems fire reward signals when they're uncomfortable because they've learned discomfort predicts growth. This neural rewiring happens through repeatedly choosing discomfort and experiencing positive outcomes until the association becomes automatic. Fifth belief: wealth is my responsibility and my right. Many people feel guilty about pursuing wealth. They've internalized messages that wanting money is greedy or that wealthy people are morally inferior. This guilt sabotages wealth building unconsciously. The forever wealthy mindset rejects this programming. Wealth is morally neutral. It's a tool. What matters is how you acquire it and how you use it. Acquiring wealth through value creation is virtuous. It means you solve problems and improved lives. Using wealth to create security, help others, and fund meaningful work is virtuous. There's zero reason for guilt. In fact, staying broke while capable of creating wealth is more morally questionable because broke people can't help others substantially. Wealth is permission you give yourself, not something you wait for others to grant you. Wealth flows to the prepared mind. And the prepared mind has installed these 5 core beliefs so deeply they operate automatically. When opportunities arise, these beliefs fire automatically, generating responses that build wealth. When obstacles appear, these beliefs reframe them as feedback and opportunities. The forever wealthy don't need willpower because their mindset makes wealth building feel natural, not forced. This is the ultimate goal, making wealth building automatic through deep mindset transformation. Installing this mindset requires deliberate practice over months. You can't just read these beliefs once and expect transformation. You must expose yourself to them repeatedly until they override old programming. Daily affirmations aren't magic, but they are repetition. And repetition rewires neurons. Spend 5 minutes daily reading and embodying these beliefs. Notice when old scarcity beliefs arise and consciously replace them with abundance beliefs. This feels artificial initially, That's fine. You're building new neural pathways. They become natural through repetition. Surround yourself with abundance mindset people. Your brain mimics the thinking patterns of people you're around. Broke friends will reinforce broke thinking. Wealthy friends will reinforce wealth thinking. If you don't have wealthy friends, consume content from wealthy people. Read their books. Watch their talks. Follow their social media. Your brain will absorb their thinking patterns through exposure. This isn't about abandoning old friends. It's about adding new influences that support your transformation rather than anchoring you to old patterns. Take one wealth-building action daily regardless of size. Action reinforces beliefs more than passive consumption. Invest $10. Learn one financial concept. Have one financial conversation. Negotiate one thing. Each action strengthens the neural pathway connecting you with wealth identity. Over months, these actions compound. You're not just learning about wealth. You're becoming someone who builds wealth through habitual action. Identity follows action. Act like someone building wealth consistently, and your identity shifts to match. This identity shift makes wealth building feel natural instead of foreign. Celebrate evidence of progress regardless of size. You saved $100 this month? Celebrate it. You negotiated a small raise? Celebrate it. You learned a new concept? Celebrate it. Your brain releases dopamine during celebration. Dopamine strengthens the neural pathways that produce the celebrated outcome. You're literally training your brain to associate wealth-building behaviors with pleasure. This makes continuing them easier. Most people only celebrate big outcomes, which come rarely, so their brains never strongly associate wealth-building with pleasure. Celebrate small wins frequently to rewire your reward system toward wealth-building behaviors. Practice gratitude for current resources while pursuing more. This seems contradictory but isn't. Gratitude for what you have calms your nervous system and opens perception. Desire for more drives action and growth. They work together.